Hello everyone, and welcome to Max Schroeder Productions, here with another movie review on one of the movies I recently saw, and that is Hamlet, that was released on May 4th, 1948, directed by Laurence Olivier, and starring Laurence Olivier as Hamlet himself, Basil Sidney as the King of Denmark, Eileen Hurley as the Queen of Denmark, and Horatio as played by Norman Woolen. This film was not released, not made in the United States, and was made in Britain, and it was released to the U.S. later on in 1948 for distribution, and it in U.S. rentals it made about $3,250,000, which is an average for a movie back then that to be released here in theaters. The film is a British film adaptation of William Shakespeare's play of the same name, Hamlet. And this film is considered a German expressionism film and a film noir as well, and we'll get to that later in the review. But as this film starts off, it starts with soldiers who are guarding the palace and see a vision of the ghost of Hamlet, who is kind of haunting them and saying that there will be evil death upon, this castle and this kingdom. So then later on, we see the king, the queen, and Prince Hamlet at the time having a feast and whatever, and then we later on go into the film where the king is killed by a suspicious murderer, and we don't know who this murderer is. So then Hamlet is trying to figure out who murdered my father and who was responsible for my father's death as he tries to figure out this scenario. So this film was filmed at Pinewood Studios and also Denham Studios in Britain, and this was the first British non-American film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. This was the first film to win an Academy Award for being international. This was the first, the first Shakespeare play to actually be filmed in English, and for the first time in sound too. So this was like a first Shakespeare film to be not only released on film, but also being recorded in English and being spoken in English instead of a silent film or older film. And as we look at it too, the camera, as I look into the cinematography on this film, there are a lot of good cinematography effects, whereas the camera effects were very influenced by Citizen Kane, who a couple years back filmed Citizen Kane. And so a lot of the cinematography has been influenced by Citizen Kane, and that was made about 7 years prior to Hamlet. Some interesting facts to go on about the film. The ghost that the soldiers see, and throughout the film, the ghost is, again, Olivier, but his voice is slowed down in speed so that we can hear an actual ghostly voice. So it still is Olivier, just some little trivia. And some interesting facts that these characters don't get noticed is that Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, who we know from the Hammer horror films and Star Wars saga, all make appearances as small minor characters in this play that don't really get noticed, but you gotta, and I cite this all from imdb.com, so they said that they make appearances. This film also won Best Actor for Laurence Olivier, and obviously it also won Best Director. It also won Best Art Direction and Costume Design. And this was the only Best Picture nominee for the category Costume Design. They never had a Best Picture be nominated in a costume design at the Academy Awards. This film was also nominated for Best Production Design, Best Director for Laurence Olivier. First time that a film would be nominated for Best Actor and Best Director all at once, so that was a new thing for the Academy Awards. It also won 2 Golden Globes for Best Actor and Best Motion Picture. This film is also part of the Criterion Collection as well. And interesting fact, this film is quite similar to the stage adaptation of Hamlet made a lot of years back. And believe it or not, another Star Wars character, Alec Guinness, was in the stage adaptation. Alec Guinness also played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars. So a lot of the Star Wars actors managed to be in this film or in the stage adaptation. So notes about the play versus the film itself. So this film stresses a lot on Hamlet's like psychological and mental mentality. There are, since it's a film and they could do flashbacks and additions and stuff, so there are a lot of flashbacks of of the murder that Hamlet foresees, and also the murder of the king. Setting is set obviously in a castle, and it feels very imprisoned, like you're just in the castle. You never really go outside of the castle for the filming, and it seems kind of, again, like a stage adaptation, and everything just seems so unrealistic compared to this film felt like watching a play more than a movie. And I don't know, maybe just at the time they were trying to figure out how to make a theatrical film well or something like that compared to a play. But some things to consider when watching this film is the camera effects. There are a lot of deep focus shots and long shots, especially in the courtroom, the king and queen's throne room, and there are a lot of times when you see high angles of looking down at Hamlet from another character's point of view, also from the king's point of view as well. There's a lot of panning and tracking shots that they would be good for a few seconds, but they seem to go really long than expected, which kind of longer than usual shots, and it kind of throws you off a little bit too. There's a scene where I think it's one of the princesses or the queen falls on the ground, and we get a tracking shot going all the way back to the steps, and then it goes behind a wall, and then we get to see her again, and then we go up the steps, and then back down up the steps to the character. For reasons why they did that, I felt like it wasn't necessary, but I'm probably for continuity's sakes, maybe they wanted to do that. It just seemed unnecessary to do it that long, instead of maybe just stopping at the wall and then doing a transition to another scene, which a lot of it is mainly transitions, or once in a while, very rarely, jump cuts to different scenes. The lighting is very interesting in the film. A lot of the shadows reflect Hamlet's emotion and also his mind, which this also creates a depth of field, depth of image during the film. And a lot of the closed frames kind of act like they follow Hamlet's emotions and thinking as well. So it's kind of like the camera is kind of acting as Hamlet's double, or not stunt double, but double character. So, and as I researched too, a lot of critics believe that this film is more of a stage play, more of a play than it is as a theatrical film. And what I mean by that is I kind of see where they're going at, because it's all set in one specific setting. They don't really move to different areas. They don't move to different scenes. They don't move outside or in. I mean, they stay inside, but different areas besides the king and queen's throne, up the stairs, down the stairs, outside the castle, on the rooftop. It doesn't really leave the castle or the inside of the castle at all during the film. It's all basically like almost like a Broadway or stage adaptation, all filmed in one location instead of going anywhere else. which to me kind of, yeah, I kind of see where it was, but yeah, comparing this to the stage adaptation, I mean, obviously I haven't seen the stage adaptation, but I could probably see how it's very similar to this film. And also the play, I read it in high school, and I vaguely remember reading the play, but it does follow the Hamlet play a lot. It does follow suit very well, and honestly, I think this is a true Shakespeare film that follows his plays compared to the other ones like Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, which I will do Romeo and Juliet on the next video, so stay tuned for that one. Macbeth, and there's a whole bunch of Shakespeare's film adaptations out there, so it's kind of, I would say it goes true to the story and the original play. So I would say I give this movie a 5-star rating, because I'm not big in the Broadway stage plays, but this is a good film for, like, if you're big in the cinematography, cinematic approach. There's a lot of good approaches to look at this film through a film production aspect, and also character development is all suited well throughout this film. Like, you get a lot of development through, obviously, Hamlet, the princess, the queen, the king, and there's a lot of stage adaptation. And as I watched it too, there are a lot of films later on that kind of follow the same structure as Hamlet. Like, for example, when you watch Lion King, it's literally an adaptation of Hamlet, because you get, Hamlet and Simba are kind of like the princes, and both their fathers die, and they accuse their uncles as the murderers. So, yeah, Lion King kind of took a lot of aspects and similarities to Hamlet too. So I have a feeling they took a lot of influence from this film as well. So that is my review on Hamlet. If you have any comments, please comment below and tell me what you think about Hamlet and whether you've seen it or going to see it. Please let me know. Please like my video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Max Schroeder Productions. And I will see you in the next video, which will be on Romeo and Juliet starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Thank you.